Our next speaker became a member of parliament at just 26, one of the youngest MPs in the country, Union Minister for Communications and IT and Corporate Affairs, and later Deputy Chief Minister of Rajasthan. But in my eyes, what makes him different from most of his colleagues isn't just how much he rose, but despite our current political climate, how he stuck by his ideological belief. As the IT minister, he understood bandwidth, both in telecom terms and political patience. He's an alumnus of St. Stephen's College, IMT Ghaziabad, and an MBA from the Wharton School from the University of Pennsylvania. He also could have chosen a corporate career and he could have chosen a simpler life. But he chose a public life. And then he chose something even rarer, to serve the nation in uniform as an officer in the territorial army. And in my opinion, that matters more than anything else. Because it tells you leadership isn't just about speaking for the country, it's about being ready to be there to serve the country even when there is a fight per se. Therefore, it gives me great pleasure and privilege to be able to tell you that the next guest who's coming here, if you heard the introduction, is not just a politician, but is somebody who's actually entered the TA. And therefore, if there is ever a fight, just to put that into context for the younger ones, if there is ever a fight, you will see him at the border. Of course, it won't be needed, but he's put his name out there saying, I will be there when the nation needs me. And it's a little more than just putting your name. It's a lot of effort that goes in every single year. Therefore, it gives me great pleasure to be able to welcome him. He's traveled all the way from Delhi, and therefore, let's give him a gracious, loud round of applause as we welcome our next speaker, Captain Sachin Pilot. One thing that I must start with is this man, since the time I started following politics and started seeing him on screen, he looks the same. He's not changed. And what's the secret of being perennially young? How do you look exactly the same for the last 20 years?
Well, I'll take that as a compliment, Rishabh. First of all, thank you for having me here, and thank you all for being here this afternoon. Your first question is a very complimentary one, so thank you for that. And I know tougher questions are now on their way. I don't think I've thought so much about looking young or old. I am who I am, but I'm mindful of perhaps what I eat, and I try and do some physical exercise a few times a week. Other than that, I think it's good genes, if nothing else.
It's good genes, and that's your humility, but I'm sure there's a lot of effort and exercise that goes behind it as well. You entered, now to the slightly tougher questions. You entered public life at 26. But before public life, I want to try to understand, because it's a very young audience. It's all high school students, it's teenagers essentially. So what was Sachin Pilot like? Was he a student who was always a first bencher who used to get 100 on 100 on his papers? Or was he a little bit like a normal person who would barely make it through?
I think if you pick up any 15-year-old from here, boy, I was exactly like that boy. I went to an Air Force school because my late father was in the Air Force, and my bringing was in New Delhi. And so a lot of our family friends were all from the Air Force families. The uniformed services have a tougher schooling life. But Air Force school was a tough school, but I was a regular student. I wasn't top of the game. But I wasn't slacking off. My mother was quite strict, so I had to keep my grades up. Father was a bit more lenient, in fact, very lenient. Upbringing was absolutely normal, and I'm thankful for that, because my parents made sure that while growing up, I used to have the same restriction, no pocket money, no late night outs, and so all of that was there, and my mother was pretty harsh. She was strict. So upbringing was very fun. I had a lot of fun in school. A lot of my friends are from school, but these years are very formative years. And I think it's important to do your best, make the best friends, work hard, but also try and expand your activities and whatever you can do. So I had a very normal upbringing, and I think that's really helped me in the later years.
And anything in particular from school that you remember that has shaped the Sachin Pilot that we know today?
it wasn't that profound. School was, I did everything that a normal person does. I won't elaborate anymore because, like I said, I had a lot of fun in school. I wasn't one of the bad students in school. I had a reasonably good reputation.
But you're coming across as notorious right now.
No, no. School life was fun. I think these are the years where you try and explore things, you discover new things, but also lays the foundation of what you are as a person. So interpersonal relationships, how you treat people, how you behave with people, how you interact with people, all that gets formed during these years. And I think they're quite important. College, of course, is a different, you have a different mindset. But schooling is important in terms of both having some discipline, but also having the elbow room to explore yourself, to be a little bit naughty once in a while, but still remain within the bandwidth.
So you can be naughty. He said this on record. So to all the teachers and the principals, whenever there's a problem, show them this video saying it's okay to be
You'll
naughty.
be surprised. A lot of my school teachers, whenever I see them, they remember very fondly. So I may have been mischievous, but all with good intention. So they still like me, and they've always, been very kind when I met them after school. So I think that's something to do with me not being too mischievous.
Not to be too mischievous, and also when it comes to politics as well. When it comes to asking questions, I've seen you ask questions and ask them respectfully. You differ respectfully. So there is a little bit of notorious nature that is there, but also there is also a lot of discipline and reverence, so to say, for your seniors per se. So how does one find that balance, especially when you're growing up in an age where you automatically rebel as a teenager to most things that are given to you?
No, Rishabh, I think for all generations of people, when they go through this age, whether it's the 80s, 90s, or 2000s, these are very curious years, and people get some information, young people, and feel super confident about what they think and they know is right. It's good to have your beliefs, but always remember that when you're talking or you're addressing people who are older than you, they may be less intelligent than you. You may have proved them wrong, but I think culturally what we've learned in our society is that you always give that respect for people who are older than you. It doesn't matter if you proved a point. I think if you've actually proved a point, you have to try and be more humble. If you get cocky, now I've proven a point, and when you ask question because you think you know more, you may get that self-satisfaction for a few minutes or half an hour, but later in life what really helps you if you are acting with humility. So even if you see any business leader, any top global leader in India or around the world, you'll find people who are always humble. Humility doesn't mean that you're scared or you're low on confidence. Humility means that you understand and respect people for what they are. They may be older than you, maybe more knowledgeable than you, but the fact that to question someone, to ask something, if you do it with the words that are soft, that are respectful, you will get that back. But remember, respect you have to earn. You can't demand it. Fear you can exert, but respect you earn by giving respect.
Correct. So you can't. You need to be very careful when it comes to respect and how you command respect. But when you show a lot of respect to seniors, and this is something that I've seen and observed from the outside, from the periphery, when you're too, when there is too much of reverence, so to say, at that juncture, then people say that you are young and therefore there is much to learn, and therefore abhi samay lagega. And that's something that I have observed in your political career as well, where for far too long, I feel somebody like you who is in tune with young people, in tune with his state, would perhaps make for a great chief minister. So then it's said that that reverence is then taken as chalta hai. It is something, at least from the outside, it seems like that, saying chalta hai, his turn will come.
No, that I think is true only in politics. जो आपने बोला ना कि age है, but if you're a young inventor or a startup person or a business person or a sports person, I mean, age doesn't come in the way. If you can perform, excel, you can deliver. Today, I think age is not a barrier. But in politics, certainly sometimes it's not as simple to navigate given the age factor. But having said that, you are talking about one position, Rishabh, but I think God has been kind. I've got many positions, both in the government and the opposition. And frankly, life's aim should not be to attain a certain position. It should be able to earn regard and respect of your peers, of people. And if you're able to get that credibility and respect in public life, that's far more important than getting A post or B post, because post positions जीवन में बहुत आएंगे, बहुत जाएंगी. But to earn people's respect and to make a small space in their hearts and minds, I think that's a far more difficult challenge than getting into a position.
And that's what you've done with the people of Tonk and in Rajasthan.
I've tried. Time will tell.
No, no, and the wins that you've had out there essentially in the past few years, but also the losses that you've had would have shaped you and made you a different person from when you started in politics. So I don't want to delve too much on the successes, but if I may, because I know that you would be amiable to talk about this subject area, which is failures.
Right.
Has there been any one particular instance in your political career that you can highlight as a failure, and what did you learn from it, which can be extrapolated to the lives of young people?
So as you know, Rishabh, I entered parliament when I was quite young. I was 26 when I became a member of parliament. Then I became a minister in the government of India with Dr. Manmohan Singh. I was 31 or 32. And subsequently, 2013, it seems like a long time back for all of you, but for me, it's not that long back. In 2013, the party asked me to go to Rajasthan, my home state, and become the party president, just before the elections. And I took up the challenge. And 2014 elections came, Lok Sabha elections. Rajasthan, we have 25 Lok Sabha seats. The Congress party lost all 25, including my own. And I had just become president 3 months ago. And suddenly my life changed, because here I was a union minister in Delhi, plush life, and member of parliament. Suddenly I go back to the state, I'm given charge of the state unit, and I lead the party to polls. Within 3 months, I took charge in, I think, January or February, and in April there were elections. So within 3 months, we lost all seats. And that was a wave where, Congress party came down from 200 odd seats to like 45 seats or something. So that one election, I won't say failure, but certainly a loss that I was not really expecting. Something inside me told me that I should win, because I've done so much work in the constituency, development work, so on and so forth. But elections, when the wave comes, I lost. And not only that loss of losing my own seat, also I had to go back to Jaipur, have a press conference, and then I took responsibility for all the 25 seats, which were my unit, my state, where I was party president. And then I went back to New Delhi. And I offered Mrs. Gandhi, who was the Congress president, I said, ma'am, you made me president 4 months ago, but Lok Sabha elections, all of us lost, and I want to take responsibility for that loss. And I offered my resignation in writing. I gave it to her. And she said, no, Sachin, you took charge 3 months ago, and this loss can't be put on you. So she didn't accept my resignation. But that, again, that loss, something inside me, Rishabh, said to me that now I have to get back. So I packed everything I had. I moved all around Rajasthan. I stayed there for 5 long years. And I said, I have to bring my party back to power. And from almost nothing, in 5 years later, we were able to form a government. And that was something that pushed me, because maybe if I had won that election, I would not have given it my 110%. And believe me, with Mr. Modi, he had just become Prime Minister, Vasundhara ji was Chief Minister, formidable majority, people had written off the Congress party in many senses. So, but that loss said that I have to get back. And then I didn't look back. I just, for 5 years, I was,
You were at it.
working really hard. And in the end, we were able to form the government 5 years later.
And adversity is the mother of all opportunity, is what I believe. That when you are hit with something and your back is to the wall, then automatically you're forced in order to do better than what you would have thought that you could possibly do. So in a way, like you said, that bouncing back also happened, and it happened in a way which the rest of the country saw, and took note of. But one of the things that you did touch upon is the fact that under Prime Minister Modi at that juncture, the Congress party was written off because he had just come on a huge wave, etc. Even today, there is a lot of speculation, and we've had politicians right through the day, we've had people from different walks of life, and everybody's spoken about the need for a robust democracy, and therefore the importance of an opposition. Do you think that the Congress party is going wrong somewhere, given the fact that there are so many electoral defeats that are being faced?
Right. I know that question comes from the latest elections that we've lost in Bihar and then Maharashtra before that. But I just want to put in perspective, Rishabh. Exactly 1 year, 6 months ago, when the country went to elections, people were talking about the BJP and Mr. Modi getting 300 seats, 400 seats. The fact of the matter is that today, Indian Parliament, the ruling dispensation is the NDA. They have 292 seats. The India Alliance, which is the opposition, has about 234. So the actual difference between the two groups is not insurmountable. But somehow the media, the perception, the narrative is that, it was a swing election, it was a sweep election. It wasn't like that. And yes, we've lost few elections recently, but it doesn't mean that things remain the same always. Certainly, we have to introspect and see where we went wrong. Our allies and all of us have to work together. But I think nationally, if there is any political party that has the bandwidth, the strength, the resilience, and the presence nationally to take on the BJP, it is the Congress party. And sooner or later, and I think sooner more than later, we'll be in a position to be able to challenge the BJP and make sure that they're not in government anymore. And that is, 4 years from today. But as we move on to elections in Kerala, in Assam, we put our brains together and see where we went wrong and try and fix it for the future.
Understood. To try to fix it for the future. And considering we're talking to the future, one of the things that I always touch upon is the fact that a generation is very smart, but they're also getting very polarized. I would blame the algorithm and both media for it.
The polarized, the young people?
They're more polarized than ever before because they have strong opinions. And those strong opinions come from the algorithm and media is what I believe. Now, that also comes in a way from the way politics is conducted in our country today. My question, therefore, is this, that when it came to the political system that you entered in and the political system that you have today, is there something that one could borrow from there and implement out here today?
Yes. I think there's a change. I don't want to sound like an old person, but when I first entered Parliament, Rishabh, in 2004, 21 years ago, it was a different Parliament. And why I say this is that when I walked into the House, I was very young, but I saw people and leaders act and behave and discuss in a way that for me was inspiring. So we had Mr. Bajpayee, who was former Prime Minister. We had late Chandrasekhar ji, also former Prime Minister. Mr. Deve Gowda, former Prime Minister. And Dr. Manmohan Singh, current Prime Minister. So there were 3 ex-PMs, the Prime Minister. And I think the atmosphere in which debates would take place. There was respect for the opposition and the government. People would yield some of the space, give into some of the ideas, deliberate, discuss, and then eventually do what is required, because it's all about numbers. If you have the numbers, you can pass anything in Parliament. But the fact that your ideas from the opposition or other parties were taken on board, there was a healthy debate, there was mutual respect, you could walk across the line and talk to anybody from any party to discuss ideas if they were implementable or not. I think that is missing in today's Parliament. I've not been in Parliament for a few years, but what I see is that there is constant acrimony, there is constant confrontation. The language used, the words used, the tone used by people in high positions, I think that's unbecoming. It doesn't serve our democracy where you act with arrogance and you act with brute force. And this Parliament is a temple of our democracy. Whether you win or lose, anybody who enters that house is taking 2.5 million people's wishes with him or her. And I think we have to respect that. So what's lacking now, Rishabh, I feel, is that there is a lack of understanding and communication across the aisle. You can have different ideologies, but no ideology is bigger than India. No party, no leader, no government is bigger than this country. If I want to contribute towards nation building, if I have an idea inside Parliament, I must be able to say it. And government, whoever government it is, should have the openness to receive those ideas. I think there's a missing link there. Now, I don't want to point fingers and put blame, but the fact of the matter is that India is made up of all its parts. India is made up of the opposition, the ruling party, the leaders, big and small, multiple political parties. Such a large country. How can you feel that one idea, one person, one thought, one government can actually be the best? And no one, not me, not anybody else, can claim to be the repository of all wisdom, right? You have to be open. There are experts, there are people with different opinions. तो वो मुझे लगता है कभी-कभी हमारे यहाँ कमी है कि हम लोग खुल के वो संवाद चर्चा नहीं कर पाते, and that really makes for a healthy democracy. I think we should have worked on keeping that healthy tradition alive.
You spoke about ideologies in democracy, and ideologies, of course, in democracy, I see sometimes are very fluid, unfortunately or fortunately. There have been a lot of people who served with you, who started out with you, and very many in your party who've changed and joined the ruling dispensation. This has happened the other way around when you all were in power as well. And they're very fluid when it comes to ideology. But their supporters are made to believe that this is the ideology that one believes in and one follows completely. So therefore, I keep mentioning this, saying that don't be blinded by ideology, because I don't know whether those who are preaching that ideology are essentially believing in that. There are very few who actually stick to it. So what is your message for a person who's sitting out there who wants to get into public service? How important is ideology, or is it just about serving people from whichever political party that you can get?
I think you're right, Rishabh. If anybody wants to serve the country, you don't have to be a politician. You can serve in your own ways. You can be a contributor, you can be a stakeholder, you can be a responsible citizen, you can be aware, ask questions, make our democracy what the world is hoping for us to be in the next few decades and years to come. But ideology is important because if you believe in something, you must stick to it. And you talked about people switching sides, switching ideologies. It's always happened before, it'll happen in the future also. A few percent people will always do that. And I think it's nothing to really put so much thought into because it depends on the individual, right? But I do believe that if you want to serve in public life, there are some core beliefs you have to have. For example, I believe that no matter what ideology one may profess, no ideology is above the betterment of our country. Our nation is higher and better than any party, any leader, any ideology. If you have that belief, and we believe that people can contribute to making India the best country in the world, it doesn't matter what ideology you follow. But yes, there will be a battle of ideas in the political ground. There will be a battle of ideologies. And it should be about that. It's not about individuals. It's about who can serve India better. The debate, Rishabh, is not about my opponent and I. It's about between the two opponents, let the people decide who's better placed to serve India, who can achieve those objectives, who can deliver more, who has more credibility, who can do it better. It's not that anybody's enemy. You have to choose between ideologies, and people do that. And whoever wins, salute to those people, but we have to take people along together. It can't just be my way or highway. Right? That's not the way it works.
And in today's politics, I see the me, myself, and I culture also coming through in a way, where strongman leadership is what is worshipped per se. And that necessarily wasn't the case a few decades ago as well, where you had a lot of people who were a part of a cohort that was a part of the ruling establishment. Do you see the strongman leadership culture impacting all political parties and therefore making our system less parliamentary and more presidential?
Ultimately, we are a parliamentary democracy. And you can be strong man, not so strong man, doesn't matter. Numbers matter. But you're right, now there is a trend globally also that people are getting polarized more towards individuals than pure ideologies. But I think it's also cyclical. It doesn't remain like that all the time. Because individuals come and go, but ideologies and parties stay for longer. Like I keep saying, nothing is more important than the country, right? So you can be a strong man, a weak man, doesn't matter. Are you in the end helping this country? Is today India a country where there is more or less divide? Now, of course, rich are getting very rich, and I think the
is there more or less divide?
100% more.
100%.
I mean, I've seen the gap between the people who don't have enough resources and ones who have. So 1% of India, young people listen to this, 1% of our country, people in India, hold 40% of India's assets. 40% of what India's worth is owed by 1%. And the income disparity is so alarming. It worries me, it worries us, that if this continues, the people in the far-off areas, who are in rural areas, who don't have enough resources, will not have the means or the skill sets to face the next 20 years. Their kids will grow up with many more challenges. So when we see this, India is growing 6, 7, 8%, great. But is that growth creating jobs? Are we getting people to migrate less from the rural areas? Are young people in villages having the same sort of education that people in Mumbai and Delhi have? The challenge is not about making people some money. The challenge is to make a society more equitable. Because if you have 10, 20 million people who have billions of dollars, and you have 1.3 billion people who have almost nothing, then that gap is going to break the back of our country. And this is the divide of literacy, digital divide, economic divide, opportunity divide. And that's very alarming. And unless we address it, we'll suffer in the years to come.
But the concept of an egalitarian state is something that, from 1950, it has been enshrined and we were trying to achieve it. So, of course, the last 10 years or the last 12 years, the government could have done more. But do you also concede to the fact that, we've not necessarily tried to bridge this issue or this gap, even in the years before that?
We didn't have, Rishabh, 50 years ago, India was a different country. But I'm saying today, I'm not talking about a pure egalitarian society where everybody is equal. That's a utopian. Possible nahi hai.
Correct.
But I'm saying, जो lake में पानी बढ़ता है ना, all boats must rise together, right? And of course, there will be rich and poor in every country, every society. But should the government and should all of us not intervene to make sure that the divide is not so wide
Sir,
that
ये
becomes impossible to bear?
ये कैसे करें? क्योंकि अभी अभी बात कर रहा था saying जब आपने बोला that पानी rise होता है तभी all boats should rise together. So when aircrafts fly, all airlines should take off together. Recently, none of the airlines are taking off, and the ones that are taking off are too expensive. So in all sectors that are there, crony capitalism is increasing. Zomato, Swiggy, you see, it's about 100% stake, almost 100% total market share that they have. Across sectors, this is the same problem that is there. So crony capitalism is only growing, which is what you were stating in a way that it is 1% that controls 40%. What can civil society do to address this problem? What can young people do?
I was not trying to make this discussion political. I don't want to use strong words, but I'm just talking generally because I have young people listening to me. I think the problem ultimately lies in what intentions are and what policies you implement. Why are there monopolies? Why are there only 2 airlines? Why are there only 2 mobile companies? There were 12, 15 companies, cellular and mobile providers 10 years ago. They left with 2. There were 10 airlines. Now you've got 2 or 3. Now, these things don't happen by chance, right? So there's something, some invisible hand working somewhere to create these monopolies and duopolies. And that is the worst thing for a country as big as India. When you have 2 or 3 entities controlling a powerful sector like mobile telecommunications or civil aviation, you have problems on your hand. Look at what happened in Indigo. Because of one airline. So India is too large, too big to be in the hands of a few companies. Now, this doesn't happen again by chance. So there has to be course correction. There has to be regulation. There has to be a even-handed policy making. And more importantly, there must be intention. I want the best prices, the best services, and a perfect competition in all sectors. If we can do that, consumers, citizens benefit the most.
In the last few years, there's been a lot of tom-tomming about unicorns. But one of the things that I talk about unicorns is the fact that out of the 119 unicorns odd that we have, 90% of the unicorns are not even registered in India. And 90% of the unicorns, in 90% of the unicorns, the owners own less than 10% of the stake. So we've sold majority of the stakes to overseas buyers. There is digital colonization 2.0 that is taking place. There is wealth that is fleeing the country. And we're celebrating a unicorn which essentially is not even an Indian unicorn. So the idea that young people are given Shark Tank India to watch, and I keep telling them there's a big difference between sharks in tanks and whales in oceans, and we should try to be whales in oceans and not sharks in tanks. The show is very good, and there's something to learn from it. But what advice would you give to a young entrepreneur who's starting out as to how to defeat, or not defeat, but how to deal with a system which somewhat, like you said, has an invisible hand that is making sure that 12 becomes 2?
It's not something any citizen can do. That's the job of the government. Why do we elect a government? We elect a government so there's an oversight. Nobody takes the citizens for a ride. People don't misuse their positions. And the government ensures regulatory and a policy that is an environment that is conducive. Now, of course, India's now growing. There are a lot of startups, a lot of tech companies, biotech, fintech, etc. It's great. But like you rightly said, why are we not competing with China, for example? I mean, they have their own market, which is almost as big as our market. But yet we look to the Western capitals to do the funding for our market share, for our stake back. All they want to do is start the company, get the valuation, and sell out. Correct. And make immediate money. But they're not really adding value down the chain. The problem is that everybody's here to make a quick buck.
Sir, वो हेराफेरी में एक डायलॉग था IT US इसकी टोपी उसके सर and वही हो रहा है. So then how do you
No, I think it has to be a mix of both, Rishabh. You can't mandate somebody. If I have invented something, it's my right to sell whenever I want to sell. But yes, in the frame of things for where India is, you need sustainable growth, which is homegrown, domestic market that is second to none, and globally competitive. No unicorn, quote unquote, will be competitive unless it's globally competitive. And Indians have that ability. Why are so many Indians going to the US, forming companies and making billions of dollars? We can do it here. But there has to be an ecosystem that fosters growth. That's not about making a quick buck. It's about really adding value to a large part of our country. And I keep saying this to you. There is a bubble. A certain part of our country is doing exceptionally well, good money, good earning, good education, great lifestyle. But a majority of our Indians are lacking behind. And I travel to all parts of India, and I've seen this. And it pains me when I see the disparity between how my two kids are growing up and how I see other people in rural parts who don't have the access. And I'm sure they're as smart, if not smarter than everybody here, but they will have the opportunity. And that's not because of their bad luck. It's because of we as citizens, we in this country have not been able to give them. And I take the blame myself. Why should I blame the current government? Let's say all of us. But certainly, people who have been given the job to give basic healthcare, sanitation, education, clean air to breathe, that's not too much to ask for. And if we can't do that, then
sir,
somebody must be made answerable.
But sir, in Parliament, there is no debate. There's a debate on Vande Mataram. There is a debate on...
I can't understand that. I think if you can't debate about the most basic things human beings need is pani and hawa. If you can't talk about that, and you're talking about all sorts of stuff in Parliament, it's amazing how it's been done.
But then this is also both for the opposition and the ruling party, where the issues that have been
ऋषभ
taken
मुझे
up...
एक बात बता, एक
Right,
मिनट, एक मिनट। आप भी बताना मेरे को। इस देश में अब तक जो बुरा हुआ, वो नेहरू जी ने किया, राजीव गांधी जी ने किया, मनमोहन सिंह जी ने किया, ठीक है? According to the current government. पिछले 11 साल से आप सरकार में हो, करेक्ट? अभी भी आप इंदिरा जी, मनमोहन सिंह जी, राजीव जी, forget it. इन 11 सालों में क्या हुआ मुझे बताओ। Forget it. हमने सारा बुरा किया, हमको लोगों ने हरा के विपक्ष में बिठा दिया, करेक्ट? I take responsibility. Done. 11 years gone by. What has happened in 11 years? Has the AQI increased in Delhi or gone down? I'm not finding faults. I'm saying that this country is now the top 5 economies with no credit given to what we may have done. What Narasimha Rao did to open up the economy with Dr. Manmohan Singh, the best economist India ever had. All those policies, all the things that I did as minister, telecom, fiber optics, Wi-Fi, भूल जाओ, कुछ नहीं किया. सब कुछ गलत हमने किया. लेकिन इन 11 सालों में प्रधानमंत्री जी ने 3 बार चुनाव जीत लिया, and he's elected prime minister. Is it wrong on my part to ask the question कि इन 11 सालों में बेरोजगारी, महंगाई, भुखमरी, quality of air, traffic, transportation, everything has gone bad. Who is answerable for that? But somebody has to answer, right? But नहीं. If you ask the question, ये देशद्रोही है, anti-national है, ये भगवान को नहीं मानते हैं. I mean, that's the kind of responses you get. But it's shocking. It's shocking that everybody seems to fall by the wayside. You ask tough questions in Parliament. You ask tough questions outside. You get zero responses. It's all about Hindu, Muslim, Mandir, Masjid, Vande Mataram, Jai Bharat. Not talking about young people getting jobs, education, universities, college education, nothing.
The audience is resonating with what you're saying, but on the other side, somebody from the government would say that, 73 airports the 2014 mein, abhi 160 airports hai. The rail connectivity has increased dramatically. There is new railways that are being built. Roadways have been increased. So there is, no, I'm not, I'm just saying that.
I take a point.
Right.
Rishabh, unlike the people in power, I have the grace to say, yes, there are now more airports, there are now more roads, bridges, etc., etc. But is our infant mortality rate up or down? Is our malnutrition rate up or down?
Correct.
Are more young people getting jobless or yes or no? So you can't make 4 highways and 2 bridges over 11 years and say India has developed. India will develop when people living in Jharkhand, in Bihar, in eastern part of India. Look, I know this is not a political debate, and I don't want to, and you're not representing anybody.
Correct.
But I make a only point I'm making is that when something great happens, when Chandrayaan पहुंचा Mars के ऊपर, वो 2 दिन में बन गया क्या? We launched rockets in space many decades before anybody else did. But did once the current incumbent say, I'm saying today, पिछले 10 साल में ये हाईवे बना है बॉम्बे में, वहाँ ब्रिज बना है, ठीक है, सरकार ने भी इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर बनाया होगा, मैं बोलने को तैयार हूँ. Will the current government say कि whether it's ISRO, whether it's DRDO, whether it's Chandrayaan, whether it's satellites, whether it's nuclear testing, anything the Congress government could have done, do we even get a acknowledgement? Now that's the difference, right? You have to have the openness to accept कि भाई सब मिलके कर रहे हैं. And I think it's my duty, my responsibility and my job to ask tough questions if something is missing. And that's how democracies work. Believe me, the role of the opposition is almost as important as the role of the government. But Correct. You have to allow the opposition to function.
But what, and again, not to make this into debate, but
it fully is becoming that, but it's okay.
But because they're resonating with what you're saying, so I'm just trying to give a counter on this, saying that, is there is there also where opposition is not being as civil as they used to be earlier? This is what the government says, saying, अच्छे सवाल पूछो, कठिन सवाल पूछो, अच्छे तरीके से पूछो तो हम जवाब देंगे. पर opposition क्या करती है कि हर कोई चीज़ में धरना करने लग जाती है, तो पार्लियामेंट बंद हो जाता है, रोक देते हैं, तो बाद में काम नहीं होता है. उसके लिए प्रधानमंत्री जी तो दरख्वास्त करते हैं, saying that, you know, this is the thing. No, don't clap and make it a debate here. You guys are making it a debate, but
I completely understand why you have to ask me those questions, but,
correct.
but listen to my answer also.
Okay.
We are in the opposition. 2024 Lok Sabha elections happened a year and a half ago, correct? 1 month before the elections, the Election Commission freezes the Congress party's bank accounts. You can't withdraw, can't deposit. Bank account freeze, okay? Every single opposition leader in this country, more so the Congress, has been targeted by the income tax, by the information directorate, by the CBI, by whoever. And just a data point, of all the ED notices, raids, and arrests that the enforcement directorate has made, the conviction rate is 1%. 9,800 cases were filed against people of the opposition and almost zero for the BJP. Now, when I ask the question, why is it that these agencies are being targeted to muzzle the voice of the opposition? And I get no answers. There are no press conferences. There are no clarifications. There are no answers in parliament. And then when you start in parliament, you ask questions, the speaker suspends 147 MPs in one go outside the parliament. Now, if you pick up any mainstream newspaper, television, you will never hear the genuine voice of the opposition. Token thoda bahut, like a sabji pe dhaniya dalte hain na upar se, वैसा कर देते हैं. But not beyond that. Now, when you're not being heard, and then you said, अच्छा, in a democracy, to do a protest, do a dharna, do a march, do a gherav, do a bhuk hartal, what else do you do? You tell me. I can give petition, I can sit in dharnas. I've been myself, I've court arrested, I've done padyatras, I've done lathi charge मैंने खाया पुलिस की तरफ, because you know, we are a non-violent country, but in a democracy, you have to give space to people who are asking you questions. Not anybody who asks you questions is your enemy. And I'm not asking questions for myself. I'm asking if these kids, when they grow up in 8, 9, 10 years, when they go to the job market, will all of them get jobs? And jobs they deserve. It's not about being unemployed. You can be underemployed. You can be a double master's degree program holder and get a really not so good job. It's underemployment. So are we living up to our potential? Do we not owe this country a lot more than what we're giving? Should we not be the top ranking country in every aspect? Social indices, economic growth, job opportunities, equality, investments, jobs. Why should we not aspire for that? And we don't get it, and we have huge problems. And institutions are being weakened. We ask questions, and Rishabh says, आप ढंग से नहीं पूछते हो, आप धरना दे के बैठ जाते हो, आप रूठ जाते हो. अरे भाई हम करें क्या बताओ मेरे को तुम? You tell me, what is the way out of how do you protest in a democracy like this?
आपको भी भारत को विकसित बनाना है.
Absolutely.
And government को भी विकसित भारत बनाना ही है. So sometimes I feel that in parliament, mock parliament sessions and in debates that we have at, you know, the organization and elsewhere, opposition and government come together and they sit on the same table and they discuss things.
We'd love to. We would love, if you can arrange for it, we'd love to do it. I am offering today on this platform, if you can arrange for the government and opposition to sit together, हम तो 10 साल से गला फाड़ के चिल्ला रहे हैं. बैठ के बात कर लो, हमारी बात को सुन लो, कुछ अच्छे सुझाव हो सकते हैं. हमने भी देश देखा है, दुनिया देखी है, but नहीं. It's either my way or the highway. That's the problem.
हमने एक छोटी सी डिबेट की थी. छोटी सी डिबेट की थी ऐसे, but we got Shashi Tharoor and Jayant Sinha sahab both to debate with each other, and we're trying to get people together to have conversations. Of course, Mr. Gandhi also, when he came to the IIMUN platform, he said, Rishabh, I am ready to please get the Prime Minister. I am ready to talk to him, and you moderate the conversation, or somebody should moderate.
करो बात, I'll support it if you can do it. Nothing like it. In a democracy, what is the harm in discussing and talking? अरे अपनों से बात कर रहे हैं ना. We're not talking to somebody outside the country. We should always be open to engagement and talking.
I think engagement and dialogue, one thing that we can completely agree, engagement and dialogue is the best way forward. And if that way does not work, of course, then other ways perhaps need to be explored. That said, I'll come back to the children now. And there are some who will join public life. There are many from IIMUN who are elected members of government, including in your party. What are the 3 skills or the life skills that anybody who wants to serve, whether it is in politics or wants to just serve public generally, what are the 3 life skills that they should focus when they're in school?
So you're all very still young. When you get to college and in the job space, the only thing I would see, because I've worked in the corporate space also, it's important to be not just respectful and kind to your seniors. I think if you're able to be respectful to your peers and even more conscious of people who are working below you in terms of the pecking order. So if you're a senior manager, the people below you. So you're always judged by what people under you, what they think of you. So you have to make those small gestures to appreciate, to be kind, to understand where they come from. And if people who work for you, they like you and respect you, automatically you will get a lot more credibility in the organization, whatever it is. Of course, your peers, you have that because, you know, aap barabar mein kaam karte hain. Seniors, of course, you have to love and respect because you have to. But I'm saying people who perhaps in the pecking order are not same as you, even those 360, you have to be mindful of your co-workers, because the real talent is not about what reports you make, what grades you got, and you know what targets you meet. It's about what kind of a person you are. Are you likable? You don't have to schmooze everywhere, but you can be smiling and likable. And that, I think, really helps you in creating a team that is close to you. They'll support you in your hour of need. So those few things, I think, are skill sets that you must learn at this age, so that over the years, you can become, you know, much more sort of involved in who you want to be. And it's an effort. It doesn't come naturally. Sometimes you have to work towards it. You have to introspect, look at yourself, and see how I can be a better version of myself. That'll help you no matter what you choose to do later.
So just like your iPhone, you need to keep upgrading from 1.0 to 2.0. But
This one costs nothing. iPhones are expensive. This doesn't cost anything at all.
well, one of the things that I asked a lot of speakers today, and nobody was able to give a definitive answer, there is a lot of deepfakes and there's a lot of AI going around, which creates a lot of confusion rather than solving problems. And therefore, a generation's growing up confused whether what is right and what is wrong. And to that end, how to discern news and noise, how to say what is reality and what isn't. Is there a definitive path, an idea, something that you would like to share that, you know, this is what you do as a practice that can help people?
I'm not an expert on AI at all, in fact, but it's something I think that we as a society should embrace and not be scared of. It's very daunting sometimes. You know, I hear all sorts of stories that it'll replace most parts of what we do as human beings, our workforce, our intelligence, it'll be replaced by AI, so on. Whatever the case may be, 30, 40 years ago, people said the same thing about technology, mobile phones. But if you harness technology to help you in what you want to achieve, that's the objective of the exercise. I don't think being wary or being scared of a technology is the way forward. It's already there. It's not going anywhere, right? So best is to embrace it the way you want to embrace it. How can you use it to make, like I said, a better version of yourself? What services you can provide, what skill sets you have, how can you improve that? How you harness that energy? Because by ignoring it or by wishing it away, it's not going anywhere. It's here to stay. And I keep reading about the investments that people around the world are doing in AI-specific technologies, and India's got a fair chunk of that. That means that there is potential in what the new 10, 20 years are going to produce for us. Best is to be a part of that, make sure that you grow with it, and embrace it as best as we can.
Right, but then there's also the fear, just like how Oppenheimer mentioned once he created the bomb, just like that we had Dr. Jeffrey Hinton, the godfather of AI, come to IIMUN and he was talking to us. And he said this in his Nobel acceptance speech as well, where he said, I now feel bad for having created AI, because AI without safety rails and guardrails, essentially in order to govern it, the super intelligent AI, and as it increases in terms of learning capabilities, that will be the destruction of human beings, not as AI alone, but human beings who are using AI for purposes that are not necessarily for the betterment of society.
Rishabh, I've also seen many science fiction movies, you know, when all these robots take over the world and then, you know, they start controlling everything. I don't know if you should fall prey to that sort of, narrative. What's more important is that in how do we use that to improve people's lives? Now, whether you find new cures for medicines, whether you find services that were perhaps expensive, now you can manage it. I think we have to use as country, and every government will be in a time lag. you can't regulate because it evolves so quickly. And I know the European Union has got some safeguards on how to stop AI from progressing further, but people find ways to move forward. There's no point in putting a cap. You can't stop this. It's happening in the private sector. Like I said, so government of India and also other governments should have a framework in which within to operate. Because trying to stop technology from evolving, it's not possible. People will still do it. Idea is how to best divert it and use those energies and use the positivity to help our governance structures, our societal needs, and how young people can benefit from it.
Sure, but we should not become a dumping ground, is what I'm essentially saying.
Absolutely,
Like, because with the food industry, with so many other things, Europe gets the good food, America gets the good food, and somehow the same Nestle.
And there we have to be selective. Our citizens deserve the best, as do Europeans and Americans. And I think I see how the Chinese operate. So, and you don't take nonsense from anybody, right? Our people deserve the best products, the best services, second to none. But that's something the government should stand up for, because that's a policy issue. That's something that all of us as a country should stand up and say, we will not accept second-grade stuff, we will not accept substandard products and services, because our people deserve the best.
Coming to teenagers again, because we're with teenagers, you've got a teenage son. I briefly met him, and he was briefly a part of the organization as well. And he comes across as very affable, smart, and hardworking, qualities that one sees in you. What did becoming a parent teach you, which becoming a union minister didn't?
Becoming a parent, so I have a sister who had young kids before I became a father. And obviously, we all love your nieces and nephews. Lekin somehow, until they were like 2 or 3 and walking and all that, that interaction is very limited. It's only when you have your own child that you're able to, like, at a young age, interact with. So it's a feeling that only a parent can have. I can't describe it to you, but yes, it's a huge learning experience to have a child and then do all the things you have to do as a parent. From changing nappies to burping and what else you have to do with the kids. But it's an experience that nobody will teach you, because it's something that you have to do on your own, and everybody has to go through it. And no classes, no education, and no even watching and seeing. You will not go through it unless you experience yourself.
And now that they're in their teenagers and early 20s, the idea that, is there reverse mentoring going on in a way, where they're teaching you things?
Yeah, a lot of stuff, because this generation, of course, is far more exposed. My son's 18 now, the other one's 16. I think they know a lot more about what's going on in technology, in the social media space than I am certainly aware of. So yes, I don't think it's reversed, but it's getting there very quickly.
No, that's one for the teachers and the principals as well, who will watch this. Like I mentioned, that this is going to go to 100,000 schools, but with all the serious questions out of the way, the last 2 that remain. The series is called IIMUN's Role Model Series. Has there been a role model who's profoundly impacted you in your life?
I wouldn't want to name one, because I think historically I've read a lot of people's biographies and stuff, and I've taken bits from everybody. But, I lost my father when I was very young. I was 22, I think. So when I saw him, obviously, like for every father, for every son, father is obviously the ideal. At least for me, he was. And my father was a Air Force officer, become a politician. And I've been very lucky. I had a good school. I had almost whatever I wanted. I had good education, good exposure. And my father came from almost nothing. He was pretty much, I think, below poverty line, because he came from a very small village and he came up the hard way. He had nothing going for himself. So he struggled and he made himself what he was. So as a young person, I always thought that he was someone that I always looked up to, and I still do.
And because you mentioned that you had it a little more comfortable per se, when you inherit privilege and then when you pass on privilege per se to the next generation, at that juncture, how do you make sure that the value system that was there in your father gets passed on to your son?
So Rishabh, there are 2 things. When you say privilege, I think one has to understand, like all these kids go to good schools, right?
Correct.
I think we're all very lucky that you have the best education possible. So there are millions of people, young people, who would want to be in your shoes, but they're not able to get there. So I think that's not a privilege, it's an opportunity to get. And even in the same school and same class, there'll be some kids who will learn, do well, and value what they're learning. And some kids will not take it so seriously, will be, theek hai, chalta hai. I think that depends on the parenting. So to my mind, I was lucky that I went to good school, I went to good college, and I had all the options available to me. But I did try and make use of them, and I do the same with my kids. I give them the options. I say, here's the best we can do for you, but you have to struggle, you have to work hard, you have to make a name for yourself in whatever you choose to do. So that realistic version of the world has to be told to the kids. If you make your kids grow up in this world ki sab kuch theek hoga, I'll take care of everything, you just go have a good time, then you're doing a disservice to your next generation. You have to be really frank and forthright with the kids that you bring up, that this is the reality, it's a tough world out there, you have to be competitive, and all of us can only assist and guide you. Ultimately, you have to have your own sweat and blood put into your work, and only that will make you successful, nothing else will.
Sweat and blood and hard work. Eventually, that will.
Rishabh,
like
there is no substitute for hard
Hard
work.
work.
Okay, whether you're a NGO or a sports person or a media person or politician, ये लोगों को धारणा होती है कभी-कभी कि भाई मेरा पड़ोसी मरेगा तो मैं स्वर्ग जाऊंगा. You have to murder yourself. खुद ही मर के आदमी स्वर्ग पहुंचता है. So without hard work and without putting it, there is no shortcut to success.
Correct.
Zero.
And I think across party aisles, everybody agrees on this, because Pradhan Mantri ji ne bhi wahi bola, it's not hard work, it's not Harvard, it's hard work that will get you essentially there. So I think that's also something in unanimity that everybody agrees. But coming to a rapid fire, quick one to close the conversation.
I have this option saying pass if I don't want to answer, right?
Well, you'll anyways hit the ball.
Okay.
One book every young Indian should read.
Book. I'm not a big reader, but I grew up on reading Amarchit Kathas. And I think they really set, at least in Indian context, it's important to learn our history in that sense. So those books and comics that I read, I think really helped me out a lot.
Comfort food.
Comfort food. Rajma chawal.
Favorite singer of all time.
What's wrong with Rajma chawal?
No,
You guys don't like it?
I think they liked it.
Okay.
Yeah. Favorite singer of all time.
Singer. I think Mohammed Rafi.
Favorite movie? No, they're liking.
I am 48 years old. I'm not 18 or 20, so I don't have these new favorites that all of you have.
No, this is the way to appreciate it. Yes.
Okay.
There is favorite movie of all time.
Movie. Two I really like. One is Jaani Bhi To Yaaro, and one is Satya Pe Satta.
Okay.
Amitabh Bachchan. What is that noise?
It's just them reacting.
They
See,
haven't
now they're
even-
clapping.
They
Now
have
they're
not
clapping.
seen either of those movies. I can guarantee you.
Some of them are clapping.
I don't think so. This is like 40 years ago.
Which is the second one that you named?
Satya Pe Satta.
Okay. Anybody seen the movies? Yeah, there, see? Some of. Okay. The following politicians.
Following?
When I say the following names, what's the first thought that comes to your mind, or the first word? When I say Rahul Gandhi.
Rahul Gandhi. I think he's a fearless opponent. He does not get scared or bogged down. And if I just say, I've seen people in public life
Guys,
show all the
bravado.
anger and all this thing. When it comes down to it, I've seen Rahul Gandhi in Parliament asking the Prime Minister, looking into his eyes and asking those tough questions. Very few people in the opposition have done that.
Shashi Tharoor.
His English, I understand half the times.
I think we were just discussing that. Prime Minister Modi. Narendra Modi.
Difficult to miss.
When I
I mean,
say
he's there on radio, TV, mobile, hoardings. It's impossible to miss him.
when I say Nitish Kumar.
When I said miss, not that I miss him.
Acha.
I'm saying it's impossible to not see him.
Okay.
Right.
Okay, you're clarifying that.
Yes.
Okay.
Nitish Kumar?
Nitish Kumar.
Nitish Kumar.
Nitish.
He's, I think, permanently attached to the CM's chair. They can't get him off it somehow. He's been there for 20 years.
Considering you in Mumbai, Devendra Fadnavis.
Devendra Fadnavis, I think of him both as Deputy Chief Minister, the Chief Minister, then Deputy Chief Minister, then Chief Minister. So I think he's been up and down quite a bit.
So you're saying that he holds all the portfolios?
I said he might become something else later, if not CM.
Oh, okay. When I say the word youth, what comes to mind?
Hope.
India.
India. A lot of emotions, but I think when I think of India, I feel pride, I feel confidence, and I feel that once I'm not here, even if I'm not here, and some of you may not be here, this country will go places. It has to.
And we sincerely hope that we have captains such as you who take the India flight off and that it lands safely and into 2047 and beyond. But
Yeah, Rishabh, we have a lot of challenges, we have a lot of obstacles, we have a lot of problems, but ultimately I have confidence in this country's future because not because of our trees and our mountains and our rivers, because of our people. And that's our biggest asset. If you have faith in yourself, you can achieve anything you want. And I see, not just in this hall, but across India, young people speaking different languages, so motivated, so excited, and so happy to work for a better future. There is no way that India will not find its place under the sun.
how lovely. And would it be right to then conclude by saying that it is not just the Congress or the BJP that will make Bharat Viksit, but it is young people, Gen Z and Gen Alpha, that will actually make
We
it
are
Viksit?
all ultimately have to work for them, and we
Correct.
have to serve them. And I think the objective is to make sure that India and all these young people are able to live up to the full potential. Governments will come and go, but India is here to stay.
India is here to stay. Can I, before you leave, can I just take one question? I know we've run out of time, but can we just take one?
Yeah, sure.
Sir, yeah. Anybody who has one question, hand up high. Great. And can we just pass on the mic?
Hello.
Yeah, hi, we can hear you.
So in the 2025 Bihar elections, the opposition party had promised one government job per family. And in Bihar, there are 27 million families, while I think all over there are around 14 million government jobs. So how are the policies that the opposition party is presenting, how are they even mathematically possible?
In Bihar, you see, when our ally partner was Deputy Chief Minister,
Guys, please.
he actually gave, on record, 500,000 jobs while he was Deputy Chief Minister, Tejas Yadav. And this time, he had promised that he'll give employment to every house in Bihar, because I think in Bihar, the biggest problem, like I believe all over India, is jobs. And you must understand how desperate families are to get any sort of a job. So I think he was right in formulating that opinion about giving jobs to everybody. And I think it's an ideal situation to have happened. Obviously, the vote share, can I just add, Rishabh, we lost that election. But if you look at the vote share, there's not much difference. Go and Google it. The amount of vote RJD Congress got versus what BJP and JDU got. The vote share difference is not that much, but the numerical difference, because it's first past the post, it somehow worked like that we got very few seats. But the number of people who voted for us, the difference is not that much. Having said that, we've accepted the defeat. It is what it is. But before I end, I have to say this. I also think it's not in the fairness of things to allow the government to give 10,000 rupees in every woman's bank account 2 weeks before election with the promise of saying that if you win, we'll give you more of this. Welfarism has a limit. And I think when you do that, you're violating the model of code of conduct. And Election Commission should have actually looked at it. But having said that, election's over. They have won. We have not won. But we will continue to persevere. We have our views. We have our ideas. And we'll go on and fight the next challenge.
With that, we've unfortunately run out of time because I know you have a busy schedule. Otherwise, we could have gone on and on. But the fact that...
I can take one more question.
Lovely, fantastic. Yeah. Can we get a question? Hi, can we just pass on the mic?
Hello, sir. So, sir, I've
Sorry?
Yeah. So, I've researched about politics with my father. So, since 2013, I'm seeing that the government is really exploited. I've seen people fighting for religion.
You've seen people fight for, sorry?
They are fighting for religion. Like I've seen before voting, people are building temples to get votes. And even people are even fighting for it to get votes.
Right.
So is religion as a voter magnet something that should be utilized in election nearing? Is that what your question is?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I didn't get the question, but I think he's talking about temples being built, right?
Temples being built and religion being used in order to, garner votes.
It's very simple. In this country, we are blessed that we have every practicing religion being allowed in this country. There are Jews, Christians, Hindus, Sikhs, Buddhists, Muslims, every denomination. And I think it's a matter of great pride that India has the freedom to celebrate and practice any religion. That's what our constitution has given us 75 years ago. And it's not done without thought. We could have been a Hindu country, we could have been a non-Hindu country, but we are a secular country. And unfortunately, people sometimes forget that religion is a matter of home and heart. आप किसकी पूजा करते हो, किसकी आरती उतारते हो, क्या खाते हो, क्या पहनते हो, क्या आपकी मन में श्रद्धा है, that's your home and your heart. And that's where it should live. Religion should not be worn on the sleeve. Religion is something that's personal to me. Rishabh, I'm not a ritualistic person very much, but I believe in something. And no one can tell me how I should pray, how much I should pray, who I should pray to. That's my personal choice. That's my decision. And certainly, when it comes to governance, when it comes to being a policy maker, when it comes to upholding the constitution, religion has no role to play. Everybody is equal in the eyes of law. But sometimes it is being misused to rally emotions, sometimes to plant seeds of discontentment and hatred, which I think is a disservice to our country. Because you can be any religion. And I think you can be a good citizen even if you follow any religion. But this hyper-nationalism, this one shoe fits all sort of thing is not healthy for our country. But I think people are smarter than that. I think people judge you not because of who you pray for, what kind of a human being are you. They are good Hindus, bad Muslims, bad Hindu, good Muslims. What chalta hai? You're a bad citizen. There are no bad religions. If you follow the religion and follow the path of peace and prosperity and respect each other. I say this everywhere I go. Last line I'll say, Rishabh, because a young man talked about religion. When we grow up in a place like Mumbai or Bangalore or Calcutta, you see so many different people from different religions. And I've learned this from my own life. You will learn the most from people who are least like you. If people look like you, think like you, act like you, pray like you, you will learn a little bit. But if you meet and interact with people who don't look like you, who don't speak like you, who don't eat like you, who don't pray like you, you will learn more. And life is all about learning. So learn from others. And just because you see a bad person, that person may be bad. He may be a bad citizen. It doesn't mean what religion he practices is bad. So please, young people, keep it in your mind. All religions are good. They are good and bad citizens. That's all.
Very well said. And I'll just add quickly to that. There are 1.2 million temples. There are 300,000 mosques. There are about 70,000 churches and then other places of worship. And all of them exist peacefully in our country. I think what we need is unity in diversity, not uniformity in diversity. And I think any person who holds public office and is pushing that cause is always something that we would like to profile and like to get at IIMUN. So thank you for taking the time. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you. Thank you for listening. Thank you all.
And before we let you go, can we just give you a small memento, which is literally very small, as I came to realize eventually. Dhruv, can you please hand this over?